Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we discuss my thoughts on episode 12 of the anime series, Sakurada Reset. And this one definitely proved to be, much as every other episode has been in the past of this series, very much intriguing, befuddling, just really strange and interesting. We're dealing with someone who has the powers to create a dream world and lives within it. For 9 years, I think they said this character was asleep within it. And it was interesting from right out of the gate that one of my concerns in looking at the PV for this episode that I discussed in my previous episode discussion video toward the end of it was Kei's sort of god complex, his having been heard to say that he wants to be a god, and I had offered up the speculation that things would be topsy-turvy in this oncoming episode because, you know, it just seemed like things were really strange, and for him to say that, and it seemed like Haruki or someone else had shown concern that things just didn't seem to be right with the world, right as rain, and but it turned out to be fairly innocuous, you know, Kei's saying this. It came very early on in the episode, and it was kind of just like tongue-in-cheek, like, well, I just want to be a god, you know. That's why I'm fascinated by someone who can create a whole world, Allah, the godlike, you know, ability, that ability that a god would have. And but it proved to be absolutely nothing. It was nothing like what I thought it was going to be in this episode. Unfortunately, where his statement was innocuous, there is some ominous overtones overhanging the character of Honoka, or Mishiru as she's known in the dream world, who created this dream world. And she has a compatriot called Chiru, who we first see, you know, sort of as a witch's familiar, as a little blue bird. Then we see him in a humanoid form, and he is the one who creates the things that Mishiru wants in this world. Kei attributes it to being sort of akin to, you know, rather than creating your own birthday cake and putting all the hard work and effort into it to then, you know, consume later and celebrate your birthday, you'd much rather, most people would much rather have a surprise birthday cake gifted to them, you know, brought to them by some friend or somebody like that. And so that is what the stability of this fictional fantasy dreamlike world is within, encased within Mishiru's mind, Honoka's mind, because with this godlike deity, this Chiru, who she is the little, you know, sister of, as she says, she's adopted that quality in interpersonal relationship with him. This answers to her wants and her needs. She has to request that of him, and it makes it more special for her. So she is no longer burdened. She's able to forget all of the world she left behind. When Kei asks her point blank, "Are you Honoka?" she does not remember this aspect of her personality anymore. It's long forgotten because so much of the outside world, so much of her, you know, limitations due to whatever disability or sickness that she has encountered, you know, it's almost like she's comatose and she can't be up and walking around, she describes, perhaps, you know, being bodily disabled or something. So she has free range of motion. She can do anything that can be imagined is contained within this mental dream state. The most intriguing aspect of which then follows on with people who sleep within range of her. Because it's Sakurada, because it's an ability, they can actually enter the dream world as well. And by the end of this episode, we got Kei going in there, we got Haruki going in there, we got Nono going in there, apparently having been, you know, set up and sent by Sumire because she's looking for like a homeless cat man or something that she's seen before in her mind's eye or something, and she wants to reunite with him or something along those lines. I'm wondering if this is like her father or something who was estranged or died, and she can actually, you know, meet up with him again in this strange world, or she doesn't know where he is and the dream world connects them. I have no idea. But even Sasane Ukawa, the bridge chick, the chick who could build the fences, who came to Kei's aid when she assumed he was feeling suicidal, revisiting the bridge where Sumire had taken her life, you know, even she is in there, but she's acting for the benefit of the Bureau, who feel like this fake facade of a world is dangerous. And they need to figure out, you know, spell out what the difference is between the real rational living, breathing world is and this fake realm. And it seems, for the most part, other than everything like signage and everything, the way the whole city is set up being reversed from how it is in the real world, the only other, you know, standout strange oddity between the real world and the fictional is this giant monster that comes out at night that when finally Kei's request to speak to Chiru comes through and he calls Kei, he warns him, you know, don't go out at night. It is potentially dangerous. It's fairly hectic. And the reason being, by the end of the episode, we see this giant Cthulhu-esque monster that just comes out of nowhere, a monster of the id, if we go back to the classic sci-fi B-movie Forbidden Planet, just wreaking havoc, just destroying everything. And I think it's Haruki who suggests, this creature, this monster, will then eat up all of this fake dream world by the end of the night. It's kind of a la Stephen King's Langoliers, or if you go back to Doctor Who, there was the episode Father's Day, where there had been a really, messed up, timey-wimey configuration with time. The past had been rewritten for a temporary amount of time. And these creatures called the Reapers came out of nowhere, from like a pocket universe, and would then swallow up all of reality to make way for a new reality, very similarly to the Langoliers. And that's kind of what this monster, this giant Cthulhu squid multi-eyed monster, seems to be doing when everyone who is in the living, breathing world can then escape after having visited this dream world. They go to sleep within it and wake up in the real world. All of whatever's been constructed is wiped out, only to be born again the next day, I assume, within the mind of Hanoka or Michiru. And that it's all highfalutin, intriguing, and fascinating. Like, what is the purpose of all of this? Of course, we know Kei, his interest is going in and, sort of running a simulation to figure out if they can help spirit Sumire away, because they can't have the Bureau become aware of her existence. If that happens, it's potentially dangerous. They'll potentially lock her up and confine her like they did with the witch. And so he's trying to figure out anything he can do, rather than run a computer simulation or something like that. Like, how would that even work anyway? But if he were able to run a computer simulation, of course, the Bureau might find out about that. And that might tip the hat that Sumire is back in this living, breathing world, has been saved, and he needs to keep that on the down low. So what better way to enter that facet of, the entire affair into this fake dream world and see how it goes? The problem with that being, well, unfortunately, a lot of it is closed off. They can't exit the entire space of Sakurada within the dream world. But then you have the other foot drop, and we find Sumire herself is actually in this thing. She knows Churu, the familiar, the bird who becomes humanoid. She has a familiarity with him. She's already seen him and discussed things with him before, had communication with him before. And it's just like mind-blowing that, because she sent Nono in. But was that as innocuous as the statement Kei made at the start of the episode about having this dream of godhood, of a god complex, wanting to tap into all of that ability that a god would wield? It was completely just a tongue-in-cheek, off-the-cuff remark from Kei. But what is Sumire playing at? Whatever she's playing at, whether she heard the message for herself denoting that she's the original Sumire brought back, which she never answers. What is it she's after? She tells Kei it's a secret. She tells the very same thing to Churu, this familiar, this bird dude, when he asks, what is it you're after? It's a secret. She's not letting on what it is she's after. The one certainty we can garner from her dialogue and the way she's carrying herself is especially relating to Kei and Haruki, whom Kei, tells Sumire at some point in the episode, or rather, I think he tells Okaeri, which was highly fascinating. He's still on good terms enough with her to be talking to her over the phone. But he basically talks about the fact that Haruki and he are going to be in a play where he has to play Haruki's boyfriend. And there's that point in the episode where she asks, will you please be my boyfriend? And I'm like, whoa, she came far in just a short amount of time since last episode to so bold-facedly ask him out and be her boyfriend. But no, it was for the play. But in relation to this, of course, their interplay, their interconnectivity, that feeling of friendship and possibly more, possibly romantic feelings between them, is something that is slightly spurning Sumire. She's jealous for one reason or another. She seems to have a fascination and interest in Kei that goes beyond just being this puppet master since the very beginning and exploiting him as she comes across, tells him in this episode is all she's been doing. So he need not feel responsible for now putting her into danger by saving her life. It was she who prompted him to do all of this. Well, that's all fine and well, but the fact of the matter is he was part and parcel with that, and it's his every right to be concerned, but she's not going to let on that she has interest in him. We've already seen her playing footsie, tiptoeing on eggshells along these lines before, just previously to her suicide, going episodes back, somewhere between episode 1 and 3, where she was at a bus stop with Kei and talking about his interest in Haruki. And it seemed as though, I think I mentioned as much in the video discussion I did after that episode, it seemed very much that she was remorseful that he would not look at her the same way he's looking at Haruki. So that seems to be the only certainty that is spelling out her, actions, dictating what her impetus could be. But there's probably a lot more to the picture because, of course, we know she has that future sensibility and she can see a whole lot further and wider than anyone else what is going to happen. And so I'm just wondering if she's trying to tiptoe through the raindrops, avoiding getting wet and just biding her time, or if she's actually more actively manipulative to the overall events. For her to seek out Nono and send her into the dream world as well, and this coinciding, potentially conflicting with members of the Bureau going in and investigating the affair and such like that, and sending Kei and Haruki in. It's pitched for a fallout. It's just hard to tell, is that going to be a beneficial one for our protagonists, or is it going to be a very ominous, nefarious one that just explodes in our protagonists' faces? The only other overhanging thing about this dream world aesthetic that kind of gives me some reservations is I really hope they don't do the typical cliched thing where our characters have entered the dream world and they will subsequently wake up out of it, but then you find things are a little odd, things are a little off, things are strange, they're just a little bit weird, things are not quite aligning to how we know them, we're more familiar with them, or the characters themselves start to denote things that are a little strange and a little odd. And then we come to find, the big revelation, the other leg will drop toward the end of this 4-episode arc. Well, they were in the dream world all along. They never actually woke up out of it. So it can explain it all away and very lazily make it an excuse why things are right back to normal the way it was before this whole arc even began. I hope they don't do that. Or if they do, I hope they do it in a very sort of, poignant, intriguing way. A way that doesn't feel like it was a waste of time. Events happen, let's say Kei and Haruki, they share their first kiss. They get really highly romantic with each other because of this play, the outline play, and they're having to play a romantic partnership. And out of that is born, the real feelings come to the fore, so to speak. And then we find, the other leg drops, and, this was all in the dream, and once they're out of it, none of that really happened, and they both contain those memories, but they can become more reluctant around each other because it wasn't all real. Such like that. I hope they don't play with us along those lines and mess with us, mess about like that. Make whatever it is that happens in this dream world an excuse to go nuts, but then none of it really happened. It would be such a cop-out. But yeah, I found this episode highly intriguing, and as I say, calling back to the idea of the monster of the id, the Langolier Reaper-esque creature that comes out, this Cthulhu-looking mother trucker who comes out and destroys this entire fictional world for it to be reborn the next day, while everyone who has fallen asleep in it, with the exception, presumably, of Michiru, is able to escape back out of it and go back to their real, normal, everyday, living, breathing lives. And it's interesting that so many people ended up in this dream world, and they all have their different reasons for being there. They all have their different interests. Kei finds out that his primary one, to try to figure out a way to sneak Samir out of town, get her out of Dodge, for her own preservation, is all but a failure. He can't make any ends to that effect, and so he just kind of abides the rest of his initial mission statement to just observe whatever differences there might be. For the eventual, at least as far as Sasane Ukawa is concerned, taking down of it, destroying this fictional world, which is just messed up. It's just kind of trippy, especially if this is all Hanoka, aka Michiru, has for a life. What harm is it really doing? I don't know. I don't know what the ramifications of that could be. So, yeah, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 12 of Sakurada Reset, if you've seen it, as well if you found it as intriguing as I did, interesting as I did, any sort of speculations you might have for what Sumire is actually after, whom this person is that Nono decided to go in and catch up with, if this is somebody who will come into play more heavily down the line, or if it's just you know, something anecdotal to her life, her father, someone estranged to her, someone she admired and you know, felt a kinship toward because she's the cat girl and everything. Whether you think Kei and Haruki are destined to you know, meld together, come together romantically, or something along those lines. And if you think Samir will be part and parcel of whatever nefarious explosion could come because of her jealousy, maybe she'll have her eyes so set on Kei, so immovably set on him, that it will spell disaster for Kei and Haruki and anyone who gets involved with them. Were you also as surprised as I was that the sort of matter-of-factness in the call shared between Kei and Okaeri, who is the villain who is gunning to take him down and ruin his life? They're just matter-of-factly talking on the phone. Oh, he invites her to the play. Oh, I'll see if I can go. I probably won't, but, you know. What the hell? This show is so weird. And, yeah. Otherwise, it'll be pretty much it for me on this. If this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.